Page 1. SMED, Shigeo Shingo. Part 1. Theory and practice of the SMED system. Part 1 describes the background and theory of the SMED system, and provides concrete examples of improvement techniques. However, mere mastery of specific techniques is not enough to ensure the proper implementation of the SMED concept. Effective implementation in a wide variety of plant situations is possible only when we understand fully the whole range of theory, principles, practical methods, and concrete techniques that have evolved with SMED. Chapter 1 explains the structure of production and the role of setup in the production process. All production is composed of processes and operations. When the basic elements of operations are analyzed, it is seen that setup operations occur at every stage in the manufacturing process. Chapter 2 describes the nature and significance of setup operations carried out in the past and explains diversified, low-volume production. Combining diversified, small-lot production with SMED is the most effective way to achieve flexible production and maximum productivity. Chapters 3-5 cover the center issues of this book by providing the theoretical framework and practical techniques of the SMED system. Chapter 3 shows how SMED evolved by distinguishing internal setups or ID, internal exchange of dye, from external setups or external exchange of dye. The four conceptual stages of SMED are identified: first, ID and OD are not distinguished, then, ID and OD are distinguished, next, ID is converted to OD, and finally, all aspects of the setup are streamlined. In Chapter 4, practical techniques corresponding to these four stages are described. Significant improvements in setup time can be achieved at each stage of setup. Chapter 5 takes a closer look at improvements in internal setup operations, stressing three areas of improvement: the implementation of parallel operations, the use of functional clamps, and the elimination of adjustments. Chapter 6 describes the application of the SMED system to metal presses and plastic forming machines. Three types of metal presses are discussed: single-shot presses, progressive die presses, and transfer die presses. Four aspects of setup on plastic forming machines are then explored: die setup, switching resins, coolant line switching, and die preheating. Chapter 7 completes our examination of the SMED system by looking at the effects of SMED. While shortened setup times and improved work rates are primary, other results increase a company's strategic advantage in numerous areas, including health and safety, training, costs, lead times, and inventory control. Chapter 1. The structure of production. A schematic outline of production. Production activities may best be understood as networks of processes and operations. Figure 1-1. A process is a continuous flow by which raw materials are converted into finished goods. In a shaft-making operation, for example, the following sequence might be observed. 1. Store raw materials in a warehouse. 2. Transport materials to the machines. 3. Store them near the machines. 4. Process them on the machines. 5. Store the finished products near the machines. 6. Inspect the finished products. 7. Store the finished products for shipment to customers. Although the flow would probably be more complex in a real factory, this is a valid illustration of the production process. An operation, by contrast, is any action performed by man, machine, or equipment on raw materials, intermediate, or finished products. Production is a network of operations and processes, with one or more operations corresponding to each step in the process. Upon further reflection, it becomes apparent that manufacturing processes can be divided into four distinct phases. 1. processing, assembly, disassembly, alteration of shape or quality. 2. Inspection, comparison with a standard. 3. Transportation, change of location. 4. Storage, a period of time during which no work, transportation, or inspection is performed on the product. The storage phase itself may be broken into 4 categories. 1. Storage of raw materials. 2. Storage of the finished product. 3. Waiting for a process. An entire lot waits because work on the previous lot has not yet been completed. 4. Waiting for a lot. While the first item in a lot is being machined, the remaining items must wait to be processed in turn. The internal structure of an operation can also be analyzed as follows. Preparation, after adjustment. These operations are performed once, before and after each lot is processed. In this book they are referred to as setup operations. Principal operations. Carried out for each item, these operations fall into 3 categories. 1. Essential operations, the actual machining of the material. 2. Auxiliary operations, attaching work pieces to or removing them from machines. 3. Margin allowances, irregularly occurring actions such as resting, drinking water, sweeping up cuttings, machinery breakdown, etc. Margin allowances can be further categorized under fatigue, hygiene, operation, performed only for a specific operation, and shop-wide, performed for all operations. Thus, there are several basic elements that combine to form operations. Figure 1-2. The relationship between processes and operations. Each phase of the manufacturing process, work, inspection, transportation, and storage, has a corresponding operation. That is, there are work operations, inspection operations, transportation operations, and storage operations, figure 1-3. Each of these operations, furthermore, has 4 subcategories: setup, essential, auxiliary, and margin allowance. Therefore, there are setup, essential, auxiliary, and margin allowance operations pertaining to work, inspection, transportation, and storage. An essential operation, then, would involve, for example, the following. Processing operation, the actual cutting of a shaft. Inspection operation, measuring the diameter with a micrometer. Transportation operation, conveying a shaft to the next process. Storage operation, storing the shaft on a rack. The same analysis applies to setup operations, whether they are processing operation setups, inspection operation setups, transportation operation setups, or storage operation setups. Although the chief emphasis in this book will be on processing operation setups, what will be said is equally applicable to inspection, transportation and storage operations. Summary. The main point of this chapter is that production activities comprise processes and operations, and setups are included in each type of operation. Page 9.